Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 19 of the Shoulda Gone Pro podcast. Hope everyone is doing well, having good weeks. We're almost to the weekend. Conference tournaments for college basketball are heating up. We got some NFL trades that have gone down. We've had one each day for the past 3 days now. So the NFL offseason is getting spicy. Baseball has ended their lockout as of a couple hours ago, so thank goodness for that. We don't have to worry about baseball being postponed anymore. They will play a full season, so I'm very happy about that. The free agency for the MLB should be rolling pretty soon. So lots of stuff happening. We're gonna dive into some news first that I know Brock is passionate about. But Brock, how you feeling?
I woke up this morning in a lot better mood than I am coming onto the podcast with. That's to say, that's an understatement.
Yeah. So the NFL trade news today, we'll start with that. Kind of Brock is awfully passionate about it, so I'll let him get his rant off his chest. But the Chicago Bears, Brock's team has traded away Khalil Mack to the LA Chargers for a second-round pick and a sixth-round pick. I was shocked to see this. I was mostly shocked because, one, Khalil Mack is still good, and two, they traded 2 firsts, a third, and a sixth when they got him. And then in return, a couple years later, they get a second and a sixth. So I was shocked about how little they got back for him. I thought they would have got at least 1 first. And then I thought that Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack duo rushing AFC West quarterbacks, which now includes Russell Wilson, is going to be insane. So I won't hold you back, Brock. How you feeling about the Khalil Mack trade?
Dumb, just dumb. I don't get it. I don't understand. I understand clearing up the cap space and getting rid of Khalil Mack, but I feel like there's other players on our roster who could have gone before Khalil Mack. Just to name a couple, Danny Trevathan should have got out of town. Cody Whitehair slowing down, get him out of there. I mean, it was obviously a cap space issue, but I think we chose the wrong player. And then when you couple that with the fact that what we got in return is literally a box of cookies and a stale fart, it's just disappointing.
I know farts can be stale.
I'm upset, dude. It's so frustrating. I mean, the defense last year was, Khalil Mack only played, I think it's like 7 games, still had 6 sacks. I mean, he was a Pro Bowler 3 out of the 4 years when he was with the Bears. We signed him to that massive contract when we traded for him, which, at the time, that's what the Bears needed. We needed that dominant guy off the edge. I thought him and Robert Quinn, I would have loved to have seen what they could have done with a full season together. Robert Quinn set the Bears sack record last year without Khalil Mack, and I think they would have been a force again this year up front with both of them back, hopefully with Khalil Mack healthy. But I just can't get over the return that we got. The Chargers needed defensive help. That was one of the reasons that kept them out of the playoffs. I know it was more on the interior of their defensive line, but for a position, they needed help on the defense, and for the Bears to not even get a first-round pick out of that. Khalil Mack, when he's healthy, I think it's safe to say is one of probably easily the top 3 edge rushers in the league. Mm-hmm. And you could make an argument that he's right up there with TJ Watt as one of the best. And it sucks. The Bears cleared up all that cap space, but again, like I said, I think there was other guys on the roster who could have gone before Khalil Mack. I wouldn't even have cared maybe trading Robert Quinn. I know he just came off that career year and it doesn't make sense, but Khalil Mack is such a difference maker. The first game he played with the Bears, he didn't even get a full training camp against Green Bay, and he had like 2 sacks, the pick 6, the strip sack fumble, and it was just that was easily his best year with the Bears, 12.5 sacks, first team All-Pro, and just consistent. Yeah, he didn't hit double-digit sacks any of his other years with the Bears after that, but you don't find players like that ever. Once in a generation talent. And the impact he can have on the game, it's just you can't replace that. And I'm just frustrated. I don't know what the hell the Bears were doing. I mean, I had hope for this new regime, Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus. And I mean, Eberflus is a defensive head coach, so you would have thought that he would have loved to have kept Khalil Mack, implemented that system he was going to bring over from Indianapolis, and go off and run with two dominant edge rushers and build around Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn, and Roquan Smith and Jalen Jackson on the defensive side of the ball. And I mean, I think I get it. I mean, yeah, it was a huge cap hit, and he hasn't necessarily been the healthiest player. And sometimes people get, the production doesn't match the contract we were paying him. But the haul, I just can't get over the haul. I mean, we gave up so much to get the guy, and now all we get in return is 2 picks. I mean, 2 picks. I mean, a second-round pick, and we don't even get to use the 6th-round pick until next year. And, I mean, we're not going to find a Khalil Mack in the 2nd round likely, and we're not going to find a Khalil Mack sure as hell not in the 6th round more than likely. I mean, I'm just upset. I mean, Bears fans, you should obviously be upset too. I mean, yeah, we have all this cap space to work with, but I mean, if we don't shell out money on the offensive line and sign the best tackle and the best guard available in this free agency class with all this extra cap space, this trade was worthless and it means nothing. I mean, our defense was the one strong point of our team. And I mean, everyone says, in the NFL now, you have to win offensively. But I mean, it sure would have helped to have a really good defense. And I mean, I think, like I said, going back to it, there was other players on this roster that we could have unloaded to free up some of that cap space instead of unloading Khalil Mack for basically nothing. And now I think our defense takes a massive step back. I mean, we have a hole now on Khalil Mack's side of the ball where he rushed on the left side. We still need another corner. We're going to need some interior defensive linemen, another safety, another linebacker. And I mean, you can kind of make up for some of those down spots in your defense when you have a dominant pass rush. And that's what the Bears have had consistently with Khalil Mack's time in Chicago. And it's just a tough day to be a Bears fan, man. I mean, I had so much optimism going into the season. We get new GM, new head coach. We finally got rid of stupid Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. And, I mean, this just feels like already a major step backwards. I know free agency hasn't even started yet. And you could say, oh, you might be overreacting. But, I mean, it's just hard to get over that when you unload it. Probably, I mean, I think easily our best player. And, I mean, we're going to have to – I mean, if the Bears have to do something and make the most of that, I think it's like $61 million in cap space now that we have. We have to make the most of that. And, I mean, it starts on the offensive side of the ball now. If you want to get rid of our best defensive player, our offense is going to have to make up for it. So, I mean, I would personally love to see us, like I said, get the best, the Armstead from New Orleans. I know that the Tennessee Titans just released their Pro Bowl guard today too.
Saffold, yeah.
Yep, Saffold. Chicago, get him. Build that offensive line. Make it the best in the league. Top 5 in the league. We need it. If Amari Cooper gets released, go dangle some money at him. Do something. I mean, I know Bobby Wagner just got released by the Seahawks too. And I think pairing him and Roquan Smith in the middle of our defense, 2 of the best tacklers, 2 of the best coverage linebackers, I think would be absolutely incredible. We'll see what kind of money Bobby Wagner's demanding. But, I mean, I personally would love to see him next to Roquan Smith, not only as a great player, and it would complement Roquan Smith perfectly, but Bobby Wagner's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's won a Super Bowl, one of the best top 5 linebackers in the league. Roquan Smith can only learn from him and get better. In a contract year, the Bears are going to have to pay Roquan Smith too. So it's just it's a tough day. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. When you sent that in the group chat, Khalil Mack to the Chargers, I think I put in all caps, what is going on? And, I mean, when I initially said it, I was like, okay, I mean, we're going to get a haul back. They didn't announce anything yet. I was like, okay, the Bears are about to fleece the Chargers. and we get nothing. And I mean, again, it's a position of need for the Chargers. They needed help on defense. And for the Bears to not even get a single first round pick out of that trade, it just blows my mind. And Bears fans, rightfully, you should be disappointed. You should be upset. And I mean, we'll see what happens in free agency, but I'm going to need a couple days to let this one sink in and sit. I mean, if we don't do anything with that money in free agency, then what the hell are we making this trade for? It feels like we're already 2 steps backwards from where we were last season, and it's just unfortunate. And I'm pretty pissed off right now, honestly.
Let me ask you: Do you own a Khalil Mack jersey or no?
Oh boy, my Bears jerseys are. It's pretty sad. Every Bears jersey I own, except for I have a Jay Cutler jersey. Mistake. Brian Urlacher no longer plays for the Bears. Obviously, Hall of Famer. Love him. Matt Forte. I think the year after I bought the Matt Forte jersey, he left the Bears. I bought a Trubisky jersey over Khalil Mack, might I add.
Oh no!
Because I was that guy. Yeah, but I have as soon as Justin Fields got drafted last year, I made sure to snap a Jay Fields jersey up. So that's the only one currently in my collection. And it's looking. Let's see what he can do in his second year. But I mean, I'm just distraught. I mean, the Bulls are the only thing keeping me sane right now, and it's just honestly a loss for words. It's a bad day to be a Bears fan. And I mean, you see Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams coming back to torment us again. We don't have Khalil Mack now off the edge to at least make a difference in the pass rush. We're not going to, like I said, we're not going to find a guy like that in free agency. So it'll be interesting to see who we fill that void with. I know Trevis Gibson, who I think was a 6th-round pick 2 or 3 years ago, had a pretty decent year last year. He had a couple sacks, I think around 5. So I mean, he'll likely be the replacement for Khalil Mack, at least right now on the roster. But that's not gonna cut it. He's gonna have to have a massive year. The Bears are gonna have to sign somebody for some depth. But I mean, it just sucks. And I think, yeah, again, like I just keep saying it, we get the cap space, we've got it, but we've got to spend that money and bring in some guys now who are actually going to help our football team and are going to be able to make up for what's likely now going to be a defense that's going to regress quite significantly. It just stinks. I'm upset, and the Hall is the most disappointing thing for me. To, like I said, to not even get a 1st-round pick out of that trade for when he's healthy, the top 5 defensive players and top 3 pass rusher. It's just brutal. And I never would have thought that the Bears would have given up so much and gotten so little in a Khalil Mack trade.
Yeah. It confuses me a little bit because I'm not sure what direction they're trying to go in, if they're trying to be contenders right now or just trying to rebuild, because they trade away Khalil for these draft picks, but they didn't even get a decent haul back for him. I feel like the Chargers really pushed the envelope trying to make this trade because they saw other teams in the AFC West making moves, specifically Russell Wilson to the Broncos and as a most recent. So they feel like they needed to have a little counterattack there. And the Chargers still have a bunch of cap space too, so they could go out and shore up their secondary a little more, which had some holes in it last season. If they have a home run draft and do some and get some decent signings to fill up that team, that Chargers team is going to look pretty good. But yeah, the Bears confused me about the direction. I feel like at that point you almost kind of want to lean more towards rebuild than a contender because you have that young quarterback. You can try and build around him and go from there. I feel like with your cap space, you'd want to try and sign some younger guys with potential and get them out there and see if they can pan out. Because I feel like if you go and sign some big name dudes, yeah, it'll help, but I don't feel like they're in a situation where they're a few pieces away from being contenders yet. So it's a weird situation to kind of be in that limbo. I mean, they've been in the mediocrity for a while now, especially with, they've had a couple of playoff appearances, but they've been like at the end of the wild card spots and they don't go far. And that's the worst place to be in sports, in my opinion, is the mediocrity in the middle. You either want to be contenders or you want to be just rebuilding. So There's very few situations where you're okay being in that middle of the pack. Pretty much if you know you're going to get better because you have a bunch of young guys, it's really the only situation where that applies. But it's a little confusing, and again, like you said, I am very surprised with how little they got back. Thinking back to other trades that I've seen where guys have gotten first round picks, and I mean the Goff Stafford trade, there was 2 first round picks and a third, and Goff for Stafford, and only 2 and a 6 for Mack. Kind of surprises me, but I mean, we'll see, because I feel like a lot of stuff's going to be going, and I feel like this could just be something along the domino effect for either one of these squads. So, but yeah, very surprising news today on that front. Is there anything else you wanted to add about that? I know you're awfully passionate about it. So,
well, I mean, it's like, yeah, I get it. The Bears do need the draft capital. I think that's what sucks the most, is that we've made so many of these moves that have compromised our ability to draft well enough and have enough of a deep, I don't even know what I'm thinking, but just enough players, enough opportunities to draft. We have to hit all these drafts as home runs now. We can't whiff on any of these players when you're drafting in the 2nd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds, like the Bears have been, because they haven't had a first round pick the last 2 years. I mean, I get it. The one moving up to get Fields, I don't hate that move at all. I love that move. I mean, he was there for you. He slipped down to 11. Never should have slipped down to 11. I mean, Zach Wilson's garbage. Trey Lance. I mean, Trey Lance got a good development year. We'll see what he's going to be like.
yeah.
Justin Fields, I think of any of the quarterbacks outside of Trevor Lawrence, easily has the highest ceiling to be. And it's just going to be able to what the Bears can build around him and put around him for talent, because we're lacking on the offensive side of the ball right now. But, I mean, we didn't even get any draft capital that's really worth it. I mean, we got a 2nd-round pick that we can use this year. Okay, so we have 2 picks in the 2nd round. It would have been nice to get the Chargers' 1st-round pick this year, so at least we're back up into the 1st round, where there's literally 15 offensive linemen we could have taken at that spot, which is a position that we need. But no, instead we settle for a 2nd and a 6th that we can't even use. The 6th round we can't use till next year. Who the hell knows what we're going to get with that pick? It's upsetting. I mean, if we could have at least gotten the 1st-round pick this year and 2 or 3 more picks that were maybe another 2nd and a 3rd that are at least higher-end around draft picks, I mean, yeah, get back in the 1st round. We can rebuild that offensive tackle position, because, like I said, there's literally 7 offensive linemen that can go in the 1st round who are all capable of starting. I know that Trevor Penning dude from Northern Iowa is an absolute monster. And, I mean, if we could have got our hands on that son of a gun, I mean, guys like 6'7", 360, just a mauler up front.
A unit.
And, I mean, we're stuck picking twice in the 2nd round. Who the hell? I mean, I guess if you look at it, glass half full, glass half empty, now in the 2nd round we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We can likely, if an offensive lineman slips, draft him with that high 2nd pick. I know this receiver class is absolutely stacked with depth. If one of those guys slips, it doesn't look as bad now if the Bears swing for the fences and draft a receiver, although it's not the position we need the most. Now that we have 2 2nd-round picks, I feel like it gives us a little bit more flexibility. But, I mean, like I said, it would have been nice to have cashed in and gotten 3 or 4 draft picks for Khalil Mack that we all could have at least – that would have rebuilt and filled up our draft capital a little bit. But, I mean, it is what it is. I don't know what direction the Bears will head in this year. I think time will tell what they do in free agency. If they make even more moves, I can still imagine Danny Trevathan getting cut. Maybe Cody Whitehair won't be back next year, but I mean, if we can get even more cap space now, I guess that's what you shoot for, and just try and throw some money at some of these guys who are going to help our football team. We can't just go around recklessly spending. I mean, it has to be with a purpose, especially since we have glaring holes on this roster. But I mean, I think it frees us up to maybe make a couple more splash moves. I know our GM, Ryan Poles, was talking about how the Bears have to hit it in like that 2nd or 3rd wave of free agency. So maybe we don't get the big fish, but we get a slightly smaller fish you can still hang on your wall and be proud of. But I mean, now I think we have to jump into that the first wave of free agency. We can't wait for all these good players to get signed. I mean, if Amari Cooper gets cut, if Bobby Wagner's there, these good offensive linemen are there, we have to jump on that opportunity and fill out this roster and use that cap space wisely. Or like I said, we freed all this cap space up for Khalil Mack for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, you make some good points, but I feel like we're gonna have a good frenzy of stuff happening with NFL, especially as it opens up next week for a lot of free agency signings. So, should be interesting, and we'll talk about that stuff as it comes along, because I'm sure there's gonna be plenty of big names going new places. So, always kind of fun to watch that take place. But the other trade in the NFL that happened yesterday was Carson Wentz from the Colts to the Commanders. And yes, they are you got to remember to call them the Commanders now, not the football team. So it still takes a little bit to think about. So Carson Wentz will be the first quarterback for the Washington Commanders. Personally, I was kind of surprised in this trade happening. I understand that the Colts wanted to get rid of Carson Wentz, so I did understand from their side of it. But the Commanders, I feel like this is a very sideways move. Getting Carson Wentz, who I feel like if you're going to trade for him, you really need him to have like a bounce back, like comeback year. When there's other options out there. I mean, Jimmy G, I feel like he's better than Carson Wentz, and he's proven to win. That's the big thing about Jimmy G, and he's going to be on the market. Jameis Winston is out on the market, who, I mean, I feel like he's a better passer than Wentz, but, I mean, as far as leadership, who knows? But I feel like, or even draft a guy. I mean, the Commanders were not a great team last year, so it's questionable for me for this move. I think you can either hit, or people are going to be saying, well, why did they do that? And they got this massive contract on their hands. So interesting move by Washington here. I heard stuff from the Colts about they wanted to get rid of him because he wasn't a good leader, and he would kind of play a little bit too reckless. And I was kind of surprised when the stuff comes out that you would see teams wanting to trade for him and give up some draft capital. I can't remember exactly what the draft capital was. I don't know if you have it up.
It's 2 twos and a conditional third round, or no, sorry. It's a second round pick in 2022, a 2022 third round pick, and then a conditional 2023 third round pick. But I'm pretty sure the way it was claused is that if Carson Wentz plays like 70% of the snaps for Washington, which is a quarterback, unless he gets hurt, it's likely going to, that becomes a second. So essentially, more than likely, it's 3 second-round picks or 2 second-round picks and a third-round pick for Carson Wentz.
Okay. I mean, and from the Colts side, I don't think that's a bad trade for them. I feel like it'd be hard to get a first for Wentz at this point of his career. I mean, that Colts team almost went to playoffs last year if they didn't choke to Jacksonville, but a good portion of that was because of Jonathan Taylor just being an absolute tank. So I feel like this is the Commanders kind of just taking a swing and hoping that they hit the ball, because if they don't, then it's a little confusing on their end. But for the Colts and the problems that they've had at the quarterback spot, they still got to think about what they're going to do. Do you draft a guy, try and go out? And I've heard that rumors about them getting Jimmy G as well. So, yeah, lots of questions for me with this trade. How do you feel about the Wentz trade and the Commanders having their quarterback now?
Well, I think they all. I mean, from what I heard on the Pat McAfee show today, I'm pretty sure Washington agreed, or yesterday or today. I'm pretty sure Washington also agreed to take Carson Wentz's contract in full, so Indianapolis gets it all off the book. So I mean, from their perspective as a financial standpoint, I mean, you unload that big contract, you get some draft capital back in return, And yeah, like you mentioned, I think a name to watch out for. I mean, obviously Jimmy Garoppolo, guy has no problem handing the football off. I think when they beat the Packers in 2019, he threw 6 times in an NFC championship game. So he has absolutely no problem handing the ball off and letting him run behind that great offensive line. And I mean, I think for Garoppolo, I think the Indianapolis Colts, as weird as it's going to sound, outside of if they can improve the wide receiver core, I mean, they have one of the best offensive lines in football, a great running game, a really good defense. Is that ringing any bells? I mean, it sounds similar to what he had in San Francisco. Obviously, he's not going to be throwing it to Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Deebo Samuel. But, I mean, Michael Pittman's still very serviceable. There is wide receivers out there that they can sign and draft. As I mentioned, this is a very deep class for wide receivers. I mean, some of those guys were running out insane times at the combine. I mean, a lot of sub 4.4s. I mean, that guy from Memphis, did you see that video of that guy getting clocked at like a 4.03 and they sped it up to 4.32?
Yeah.
I don't know what the real time was, but if that guy ran a 4.03, good Lord. But, I mean, yeah, I think another name to look out for is just like maybe a bridge guy. Mitch Trubisky, you mentioned, Jameis Winston. They can go a lot of different directions, but if I'm the Colts, I definitely take a very, very good look at Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's easily the best option available right now. And, I mean, like you mentioned, he's a winner. And I think he would fit very nice in Indianapolis if they could just get a couple more weapons on the outside for Garoppolo to throw it to. I think that's a complete roster. And then switching over to Washington, I mean, I get it. They knew they couldn't go back into this season with Taylor Heineke and Fitzmagic, which I don't even know if they had Fitzmagic under contract, but I know they do Heineke, which good for Taylor Heineke, man. I mean, went to Old Dominion, undrafted, kind of took the world by surprise when he dueled with Tom Brady last year in the playoffs. I guess technically now 2 years ago in the playoffs in that divisional round. But, I mean, they couldn't go into this season with just Heineke on their roster as a quarterback. They had to make a move. I don't mind him getting Wentz. I think it's kind of funny that he goes back to the same conference the Eagles are in. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I think he's the second best quarterback in that division behind Dak Prescott. I mean, he's leaps and bounds better than Danny Dimes and Jalen Hurts. And, I mean, Washington's defense is still pretty stacked. I mean, the front four that they have is, I think that's all first round picks, a couple number 1 picks. So crazy what they have on the defensive side of the ball. So, I mean, I think you don't really need to rely on Carson Wentz all that much, but I mean, he was putting together a tremendous season when Philadelphia won the Super Bowl before he tore his ACL and missed the rest of the season. I mean, he was an MVP candidate, was playing really good football. I mean, he didn't really have a terrible year last year in Indianapolis. And I think the game that kind of, like you mentioned, set the owner Jim Irsay off and was the Jacksonville game. I mean, he played horrendous in that game. But I mean, if you look at it and you want to compare apples to apples, I mean, Josh Allen also had one of his worst games of the season against Jacksonville as well, and Jacksonville upset Buffalo. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm not comparing Carson Wentz and Josh Allen at all, but I'm just saying for comparison standpoint, they both had some tough games against the Jaguars for some ungodly reason. I don't know what would have warranted that, but yeah, I mean, for Washington, good. I mean, good for them. It's a swing, and I mean, they still have a first round pick, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. I mean, Washington has some pretty good weapons. I mean, Logan Thomas is a terrific tight end. I drafted him in fantasy this year, and he was okay. Scary Terry, obviously a monster. I think Antonio Gibson in the backfield.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Washington certainly has some weapons that Carson Wentz can use to his disposal. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that draft pick. I think it's top 15, so maybe too high for a quarterback. Maybe they get a receiver, but I mean, I think if they do go quarterback, I mean, he can sit behind Carson Wentz for a year, learn behind him, kind of figure out what it means to be an NFL quarterback, and then go from there. But I mean, yeah, good for Washington. It's definitely a big swing, and we'll see if that. I mean, he can't be worse than any of the quarterbacks they had last year. I mean, no offense to Taylor Heineke, but the guy's just not a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. Probably going to make a great backup. But I mean, yeah, I think Carson Wentz moves it. I think it moves the needle. I think it is an upward direction move for Washington.
Mm.
I mean, they were coming off a kind of surprising playoff appearance the year before. And then obviously lost to Tampa Bay in the first round. Disappointing season last year. That defense was pretty terrible. Chase Young with the ACL injury. But I mean, Carson Wentz is going to be the best quarterback Washington's had since Kirk Cousins, which not saying much there at all. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, good for Washington. It's you gotta swing the bat to strike out, and I mean, let's see what happens. I think it's going to be interesting to see what Carson Wentz looks like with Washington next year, but I think it's definitely an upwards direction move, and I think Washington could be much improved next year, and will definitely be fighting for one of those playoff spots when the season gets down to week 16 and week 17.
I like that phrase you said there. You can strike out if you don't swing. So that's exactly how I feel about this trade.
I guess you can strike out, but I mean, it looks a lot better if you're swinging at least. But whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, technically you can, but it forward or backwards K. But yeah, you get the idea. You get the idea. But yeah, I do think, or you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It's what you mean too, right?
Michael Scott, baby.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, it's interesting moves. So I'm sure the Colts are gonna have some moves following that up too. But yeah, that's been the NFL news recently. So if the trend continues, we'll probably have a trade tomorrow. So who knows? But but yeah, in other news today, the MLB officially ended their lockout. I believe it was 99 days was the lockout, and we finally reached an agreement today. Thank goodness. So opening day will be April 7th now. I believe it's about a week after what it's supposed to be, and they are going to fit in every game this season. They're not going to miss out on any games. They're going to have some double headers, which in the new agreement, double headers are now 9 innings instead of 7. So no more of those goofy 7-inning games for the double headers, which were weird. And when Bumgarner had that no hitter, I was really confused, and people were saying, "Is that no hitter? Is it not?" Weird situation, but yeah. One thing I'm really happy about, obviously, I mean, I don't know a lot about how the financial side of this agreement works to full extent. I'm not super well versed in the money side of baseball, but I am happy that there's a universal DH now, and the NL will finally have a DH and not have to have the pitchers batting, which I feel like was just besides Shohei Ohtani and with it. I mean, he's in the AL, but besides that, I feel like nobody else really wanted to see a pitcher bat. So it is kind of nice to have that change. And they're also taking away the runner on second in extra innings, and they're going back to the original format, which I like it as well. I actually didn't really mind the runner on second just because I feel like it kind of sped up the game a little bit, but I don't mind it either way, to be honest. But yeah, I'm just happy in general that baseball is officially going to be back and have a full season. Things are going to be kind of sped up, though. I know free agency started an hour or two ago. I was expecting we would be have some stuff pop up before the show and during the show, but phones have been dry for the free agency period. So I'm sure in the next day or two, things are going to get picking up. I mean, there's a lot of still big names out there. Correa, Freddie Freeman, Trevor Story. There's plenty of big names still on the market. So they'll have to find their team and get ready to go to spring training pretty quickly. But yeah, I'm super excited that this was able to happen. I was trying to get afraid that we were going to miss some baseball time this season. I've always said that 162 is too many games for baseball because it just makes most of the games feel meaningless, especially when you get like the dog days of like June and part of July. It just feels like it's just kind of dragging on, and you're like, okay, we lost this game, so what, and just move on. But at the same time, I feel like it's better than getting games canceled. So what was your reaction to the lockout lockout ending, and how you feeling about baseball officially being back?
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled about it. Honestly, I was like you said. I was getting pretty worried there when they were on. They looked pretty far away from a deal, and they started obviously, canceling, threatening to. What ended up being just a threat to cancel games because now they're obviously all back on. Which, like you said, I think 162 is a lot. But when you look at some of the aspects of this deal, um, the minimum salary for players with less than 3 years of major league experience goes up to seven. It's jumps from 570,000 to 700,000. So I'm all for that, giving the players a little bit more
Yeah.
money. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that means 700,000. 570,000 is still a lot of money, but still, pay some of these guys. Not everybody is a multimillionaire and making a lot of money. I like the designated hitter for the National League. Like you said, I think the watching the pitchers bat is just painful.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think pretty notable thing here: a draft lottery implemented with the intent of discouraging tanking. That's good.
Yeah.
I think tanking has been a real problem in baseball for a long time. You look at some of these teams like the Orioles and the who have been bad for forever. The Marlins, when they unloaded all that talent, they're just terrible, and it's just hard to watch. And then draft pick inducements to discourage service time manipulation. I know that was a big thing. Chris Bryant took the MLB to court over that, and was pretty upset that he was forced to stay under team control for another year. I'm all for that. I still think it's probably going to happen because these owners are scumbags. But
Yeah.
at least if they get a draft pick, they might be a little bit less likely to do it. And then I think it's exciting. I'm glad baseball's back. It was hard to see them be in a lockout, like you said. Yeah, 99 days. That's crazy. It's just nuts when you think about like so many of these good free agents, like you mentioned, Chris Bryant, Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, Freddie Freeman, still haven't been signed yet. So I think it's gonna. The free agency period is gonna have to be really sped up if they're gonna want to start less than a month from now and still get some spring training games in and have these guys in shape to get ready and play a full season. And it's going to be, I think we'll hopefully, like I said, I was hoping we were going to see some fireworks here. I was really hoping the Cubs would have signed Correa as soon as the deal was signed. But I think we're going to start seeing, like you mentioned, the NFL trades have already been absolutely insane. I think MLB free agency, I think there's money to be spent. And I think it's going to get spent here pretty quickly. One, because there's still quality free agents still available out there for teams, and two, because they've got to get it in before all this starts. You want to know who's on your roster going into spring training and heading into the start of the season, which, like you said, April 7th, that's less than a month from now. So pretty tight turnaround here. So I can imagine hopefully that the MLB the phones will start blowing up and we'll get some news.
Yeah. I'm hoping so too, but I'm just happy in general that baseball's back. We don't have to worry about that anymore. My Tigers, before they locked up, got your boy Javi Baez. So I'm looking out. Oh, they also expanded the postseason to 12 teams too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
They
Yeah,
added 2 extra teams. So I believe it's the 3 versus 6 matchup will play the 2nd seed, and then the 4 versus 5 will play the 1 seed. That's how it's set up right now. So interesting though. I've always felt like they could add some more teams into the playoff. Thinking about other leagues, the NFL has 14 spots for the 32. The NBA has 16 spots. Well, technically, if you got the play-in, there's 20 spots out of the 30 teams, which is kind of crazy. But I've always thought baseball could have a couple extra playoff spots, and maybe have some Cinderella team come through. So I'm happy that they expanded it a little bit more, at least, because I was like, especially I noticed that last year with the AL East race and the AL wild card that like the Blue Jays missed out, but they had a great record. They just missed out by like a game or two at the very end, and I feel like if it's that close and you play so many games to get to that point and just little spots to get in, I like adding the 2 extra spots. But yeah, I feel like it was a good deal, and I'm very happy that baseball will be back. So, um, yeah, the conference tournaments for college basketball have been getting underway. Um, I know uh, my Michigan team blew a massive lead today to Indiana, and we're going to be a bubble team, and that very much angered me this morning. But so I guess you and I both have something to be angry about today. But um, but yeah, we big time for a lot of these schools trying to make their statement for the tourney. And the Sunday is selection Sunday, so we're gonna have some fun with that. Try and do a bracket live stream and fill out our brackets there. But I know you're a U of I guy, but how you feeling about this about the Big Ten tournament? And I assume you're gonna pick U of I to win it all, but how you feel about the Big Ten tournament?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think I was looking at the bracketology. I think it's a little bit BS that Illinois is projected 4 seed and overrated Wisconsin's a 2 seed. But teach their own. I guess Wisconsin did have a couple more big wins than Illinois this year. They beat Purdue, which swept Illinois, which I hate Purdue. I don't know why I do, but I just hate them. But I mean, yeah, I think the Big Ten is going to be well represented once again in March Madness. I think outside of the SEC, I think it's probably actually I don't even think probably I think it's the best conference in basketball. Them and the SEC always put together some really good teams. I mean, Illinois has kind of made a resurgence here the last couple of years under Brad Underwood, who terrific coach. I mean, the things he's done to turn that program around are phenomenal. And I mean, it was really heartbreaking to see him lose last year in the second round to a Loyola Chicago team that is in the dance again this year. They're the latest bracketology. They're a 10 seed. So, I mean, I think they have the potential that 7-10 matchup. It always feels like a couple 10 seeds steal one of those games. And I definitely think Loyola Chicago is, I don't even really know if you can call that an upset bid in the first round, but I mean, I definitely think they're a team that advances past the round of 64. And with the right matchup, I was telling Eric this just the other night. If they were to, just to give an example, I think if they were to match up with a team like a Purdue, who has all those big guys on the inside, like Zach Edey and Travion Williams, I think it limits what Purdue can do offensively. It's going to be a lot more relying on Jaden Ivey, who's a terrific player, and I mean he can go get you 30 and carry Purdue right past Loyola Chicago. But I'm just saying, don't sleep on Loyola Chicago. They have all guys on the floor can shoot, can slash, can handle the ball, can cut to the rim, and I mean if they draw Edey out to the basket, I mean they're gonna blow right by him. And this isn't just a Purdue hate. I'm just saying Loyola Chicago can pose matchup problems for a lot of those teams. But we'll get back to the Big Ten. I think when you look up and down the Big Ten, if Johnny Davis isn't healthy for Wisconsin, I think they could really struggle. I do think they make it out of the round of 64, that 2-15 matchup. It all depends upon who they play, but I could see Wisconsin making it out of the round of 64. But I mean, beyond that, I think it's pretty murky. Purdue, obviously a national championship threat for sure. I mean, Jaden Ivey is going to be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft this year. Like I mentioned, Edey, Travion Williams is a big who can stretch the floor. They've got Sasha Stefanovic, who's just a dead-eye shooter. So, I mean, a lot to like about Purdue. Illinois, obviously, it all starts with Kofi Coburn. Alfonso Plummer's a torch. I think the X factor is Trent Frazier. He's been kind of quiet down the stretch here in the season, but I mean, if he starts to get it going and starts knocking down shots, I mean, he's a big time player, great defensively. But yeah, I mean, I think the Big Ten is rightfully so going to be well represented in the big dance. And I mean, it wouldn't at all shock me if a team or two made a deep postseason run. I'm hoping it's the Illini. I think they're on Auburn's side of the bracket as a 4 seed. The latest bracket they were on Kansas' side of the bracket as a 4 seed, but they obviously could move up if they have a good showing in the Big Ten tournament, which, I mean, I think hopefully they beat Indiana and can go back to back as Big Ten tourney champions. But it's exciting. March Madness is such an exciting time. I mean, and for all you gamblers out there, I watched South Dakota State play North Dakota State in their conference championship the other night. North Dakota State currently a 12 seed, and I'm telling you right now, that's upset alert all day. Hammer South Dakota State. They are a really, really good basketball team. And I mean, they're one of
The
those teams that
Jackrabbits.
great all-time great name, great
Yeah.
basketball team. They could, it would not at all surprise me if they were a Sweet 16, Elite 8 team this year. It's just incredible talent that they have. I mean, they played our Bradley Braves a couple years ago and shot like 75% from three in Carver Arena. Pretty hostile environment, and I mean, all that entire team is back this year. So yeah, I think South Dakota State right now. I'm putting whoever plays them in the first round on upset alert. And that's my favorite pick of day one so far. And it's going to be interesting to see when Selection Sunday rolls around how the rest of the bracket kind of formed itself out. But I'm going to be tuned into the Illini tomorrow. Hopefully, I can get a big win against Indiana, get into the semifinals, and then go back to back, maybe climb up to that 2-3 seed range in the NCAA tournament. And like I said, yeah, I mean, it's going to be great. I don't even really know this year if I feel like there's the one seeds right now, Kansas, who seems to disappoint every year in the NCAA tournament, Gonzaga, which I'm done with Gonzaga. They finally made it to a natty and they got blown out last year by Baylor. I can't remember who the other ones are. I think it's Auburn and Arizona. Yep. Which Auburn and Arizona are really good teams. I think they certainly should get national title consideration. But I mean, one seeds don't win it that often for a reason. They got the target on their back, so just an exciting time. I love college basketball around this time. I mean, I think March Madness is one of the best sporting events out there. Rivaling the Super Bowl, obviously, but I mean, it's just terrific. I mean, just all that goes on. I mean, like you said, there's 4 games on at a time, so you're just bouncing back and forth between stations, looking at 3 different TV screens. There's nothing like March, especially when our teams, Illinois, Michigan, are in it. I mean, I'll be rooting for Loyola Chicago, as I mean, we're both Missouri Valley guys, so it'll be nice to see them make another run this year. Love Sister Jean. But yeah, I mean, nothing really compares to March Madness in just the sense that, I mean, it doesn't matter who you play. If you come out and lay an egg, you're going home. And I think that's just what makes it so special.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people seem to discredit these smaller schools, which, I mean, they don't have the big name recruits, but they won their conference for a reason. So, I mean, they have just as good of a reason to be in the tournament as these big name schools do. They went out there and they were the best team in their conference. So I do agree though with the South Dakota State Jackrabbits you mentioned. I remember them being an upset team from the past couple of years, but I'll be pulling for. I have my sister goes to Kentucky, so I'll be pulling for Oscar Tshiebwe and Kentucky. That guy's a beast, but yeah, I was as far as the Big Ten tournament, I do like U of I to go pretty far. I would pick Purdue to win that if I had to make a pick right now, though. I would counter your argument about Purdue, about the guy stretching the floor, which I do see where you're coming from with that, but it's on the defensive end. But when you go on the offensive end, I feel like having 2 guys who can really mash in the paint well, I feel like you're gonna make their best paint defender choose one or the other, and it can be easy to have them be forced to pick one, and the other one just goes off. So, and Jaden Ivey can just stretch the floor, and I mean, he's just a monster. So, but yeah, I mean, every year it seems like there's upsets. I just saw that Oklahoma upset Baylor. And Baylor is a number 3 right now in the nation. So big upset there. And Oklahoma trying to make their resume for the tournament. So, yeah, it's just that time of year where these teams can just fall random times. I mean, teams that play today, if they played today and end up going to the final of their conference tournament, they would play like 4 days straight, which is just crazy to think about. These teams that they play like 30 games in the whole season, and then they get down to this point and they play like 4 games in 4 days in these conference tournaments. It's just super fun. to be able to go on and see so many basketball scores and games happening. So enjoy it while it's here, everybody. But yeah, should be a good time. We are planning to have, like I said, the March Madness brackets. We feel like it'd be super long to do as like a regular podcast. Um, so we're thinking of having a live stream. You guys can come out. We'll tweet out all the information and everything once we get it figured out. Everyone can come out and hang out with us, talk in the chat. We can have some convos, have some laughs, and fill out our brackets. We're also going to make a bracket challenge group. So make sure you stay tuned for that. You guys can join that. Maybe we'll give away a little prize or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's that time of year. So get ready and let's have some fun this March Madness. But was there anything else that you wanted to add on to this episode?
Yeah, if any of you guys join our bracket challenge and get a perfect bracket by some stretch of America, win that prize money. It is required that we do get some for creating the group, but most of it's yours. We'll take a generous donation, of course, but the rest of it's yours.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get like $1 billion. So I mean, it costs us a little bit for even putting you in that group, to give you that chance. But that's a good point. But yeah, it would be cool one year to see somebody in the world get one right. Just in general, because I feel like I follow along in the bracket to see what the perfect scores are after the first couple of days, and if people are able to make it to like Sunday with a perfect bracket, it's like a miracle. So I'm hoping one year we get one.
I don't think I've made it past like the first 2 games of my bracket being perfect. Like it's frustrating. Every year I go in there with the confidence of a lifetime, and game 3 it's already broken, and it's like, God, this sucks.
I think once or twice I've made it to Friday, and then right on Friday it got broken. But that was a miracle as it is, because if it always feels like the Thursday morning games, there's an upset in there right away, and you'll see a tweet that says, "Oh, 65% of the brackets are already broken," and it's like, well, they're already screwed. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that stuff, and we'll definitely keep everyone updated and have a good time with the tourney this year. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening to episode 19 of the Shoulda Gone Pro podcast. We appreciate all your support as always. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at GoneProPod. That's where we'll be posting everything for podcasts in the future and March Madness stuff. So stay tuned for that. We will see y'all in that live stream. That'll be next time. We'll do a quote unquote podcast show, whatever you want to call it. Everyone take care. Enjoy the basketball this weekend, and we'll talk to you later.